It's recording.
Welcome everyone to this virtual community meeting to discuss NPA 2023-0015.04. If you haven't done so already, please let us know who is here in the chat box. And as Mark mentioned, the meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the publicinput.com/neighborhood plan amendment cases website tomorrow morning. So as you know, this property is in the East MLK Combined Neighborhood Planning Area, the MLK 183 sub-area of the plan. Mark Walters is the meeting facilitator tonight. My name is Maureen Meredith. I am the Plan Amendment Case Manager. Jonathan Tomko is the Zoning Case Manager, and this is our contact information. This will be repeated at the end of the presentation as well if you didn't capture it at this time. The agenda tonight, I'll go over basic case information, guidelines for group discussion, how to participate in this process, why is there a plan amendment application, what is a future land use map, also called a FLUM. After my presentation, Victoria Hasse will do her presentation, and then we will go into the Q&A session of the meeting. The property addresses are 5106 and 5108 Heflin Lane. It's 0.495 acres. Again, the case number is NPA 2023-0015.04. Project name is Heflin Housing. The request is to change the future land use map from single family to multifamily residential. The associated zoning case number is C14 2023-0117. And the request for the zoning case is to change the zoning from SF3 NP, which is Family Residence District Neighborhood Plan, to MF3 NP, Multifamily Residence Medium Density District Neighborhood Plan for a multifamily development. Property owner's applicant is Highmont Partnership Ltd, and the agent is Thrower Design, and Victoria Hasse will be the presenter for the agent. Guidelines for group discussion. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat at any time during the meeting. After the staff and applicant presentations, if you would like to speak, you can raise your hand by clicking on the hand symbol in the menu bar. Any telephone participants will be able to speak during the Q&A session. Attendees will be muted upon arrival and through the staff and applicant presentations. Then we will open the floor to any questions you have in the chat or by attendees raising their hands to speak. Similar questions may be grouped and answered together. We ask that you mute your microphone if you're not speaking for the sake of sound quality and clarity of conversation. And if you're having connection issues, please turn off your video until called upon to ask your question. We ask that you be respectful to each other during this presentation. How to participate in the process. As I mentioned, the meeting will be posted tomorrow morning to this website. You can email or call me or Jonathan with any questions that you have. If you provide written comments, we will include them in the staff case reports. You will get a notice in the mail when the cases are scheduled for Planning Commission and City Council. They have not been scheduled yet. So if you wanted to touch base with me or Jonathan within the next couple weeks, we may be able to give you an idea of when they might be going to Planning Commission and City Council. So why is there a neighborhood plan amendment? So neighborhood plans are adopted by City Council as amendments to the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan. And the city charter requires zoning changes to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Most neighborhood plan amendments are changes to a future land use map, and most neighborhood plan amendment cases have an associated zoning application. This map shows the areas in blue that have city council approved neighborhood plans and future land use maps. Planning areas have a plan document that have the vision and goals of the planning area. And most of the planning areas also have a future land use map where these colors represent broad land uses. For example, on this property, the existing land use is single family and it's shown in yellow. And with the proposed zoning of multifamily 3, the land use would be orange, which is multifamily land use. And here is a zoomed in version of the future land use map. You can see the two lots with the single family land use. The kind of greenish color surrounding the property to the north and to the west, that is a high density single family land use. The bright yellow is the single family land use, and you see to the bottom right of your screen that pinkish color, that is the mixed residential land use. And you can see the multifamily land use in the very top right corner of the screen. That's the orange. This is an aerial photo with the future land use categories overlaid. You can see the property is vacant. Property to the north appears to be vacant, and you have some single family homes to the east and south. Zoning map again shows to the north the SF6 NP zoning, that is the townhouse condominium zoning district. The SF3 is the family residence district. You see the multifamily free zoning to the right, south of the screen, sort of, I guess you could say southeast. And then you have the single family SF3 to the south again. I threw in this map to show the floodplains because I noticed there is a creek near it, and I'm not sure if Victoria wants to talk about this, but this shows the City of Austin fully developed 25-year and City of Austin fully developed 100-year floodplain. There's also the FEMA floodplain of 100-year and the 500-year, and then the critical water quality zone. And other than this, I won't be able to provide much information on these zones, but maybe Victoria will be able to. It's a Google map that just shows some of the surrounding uses, not much different from the other maps. Google screenshot of the property. Growth concept map from the Imagine Austin comprehensive plan, and these colors represent regional centers, town centers, neighborhood centers, and activity corridors. So you can see the property is not near or within any of the activity centers, but it is just south of the East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, which is an activity corridor, and also to the east of Springdale Road, which is also an activity corridor. This map shows some of the public transportation around the property. You see some on East Martin Luther King Boulevard to the north, Tanny Hill, some buses running along Heflin and Springdale Road. That ends my presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Let me pull up my presentation. Share my screen. Okay, let me know if y'all can see it.
You can see it.
Okay. My name is Victoria Hasse. I'm with Thrower Design. We are representing the landowner of the subject properties that we're talking about. The properties are actually addressed as 5106 and 5108 Heflin Lane. And Maureen, you may have said that previously and I just missed it. But it is 0.49 acres, so just under 5 acres of land. And as Maureen said, we are looking to amend the future land use map to change it from single family to multifamily. So this color would turn orange, as Maureen said earlier. And then in association with the future land use map amendment, we're also asking for a zoning change from SF3 to MF3. The landowner desires to do a missing middle project here, so to bring more units, more dwelling units to this area. And we felt like MF3 was an appropriate zoning category and would allow a level of density that this site could accommodate. It is, as Maureen said, it is close to Imagine Austin corridors. It's not very far from existing transit service. As a matter of fact, I think there's a bus line that goes down Heflin Lane. So we do feel like it's a good area that can accommodate a little more density, more units, especially as we're looking to try to put more of these units along transit corridors where there's existing service and future service planned. So MF3, I know this is a neighborhood plan amendment meeting, and so we're really talking about the change from single family to multifamily, but what it ultimately ends up resulting in is a zoning change. And to MF3 is what we're asking. And MF3 allows a average density of 26 units per acre. As we said, we're dealing with a half acre, a little less than a half acre here. So at most, the maximum density that this property could achieve would be 11 units. I think to be exact, it's like 11.8 something, but you have to round down. So the maximum density would be 11 units. But realistically, once you plan a site to accommodate all of the city's requirements from setback distances to internal driveways, working around trees. Maureen, you did mention that this site has some floodplain, and that is true. There's FEMA floodplain. There's also City of Austin fully developed floodplain that incorporates or covers a large part of this property. You can develop in the floodplain, but if you do develop in the floodplain, you have to do it in a very specific way that meets the requirements to keep people safe in the event that there is a storm event, a flooding event that comes about. So it is possible to develop there. You have to build up out of the floodplain. So it would mean that some of these structures would be elevated above the floodplain, or all of the structures would be elevated above the floodplain. Also, any development that comes forward here, because it is in the floodplain, will require, likely require flood study, things like that. So there'll be a more detailed look at those aspects of the property as we move forward in a site planning phase. But there's no point in doing any of that really until we get a zoning change. So zoning change here, again, like I said, by the time you factor in all of the site constraints for developing in the city of Austin, you're not likely to get 11 units, although it might be possible if the units are smaller. But for example, if they were all 2-bedroom units, you would get less than 11 units. So, but at least for the neighborhood to know that the maximum density would be the 11 units per for this lot. That would be the maximum. So really, we're here to try to hear any concerns that the neighborhood has about this rezoning, this neighborhood plan amendment and rezoning request. And if I hear any questions that I can't answer tonight, I will do everything I can to get answers to those and be in touch by email or phone afterwards. And so with that, I'll turn it back to you, Maureen.
Well, thank you, Victoria.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Turn it
It's
to you,
fine.
Mark.
Yeah, so we have one person here on the call. So Adam, do you have any questions of either the applicant's agent or staff?
I guess my only question for Victoria would be more like, what are they planning on actually building? Because, we've been through this process with that other Heflin unit or that property and nothing has been built. And so I'm just wondering, like, is this just a way to make, like, if we approve this zoning change, I assume that's going to make the property worth more money. Are you just trying to sell the property, or are you actually going to develop something?
Well, we're not the developers, right? But the landowner has sought our assistance in rezoning the property because he would like the opportunity to bring more units to this site. As it sits today, it's SF3, and so I guess technically it could be. I don't know if it could be further subdivided. It's already it's already two legally platted lots. even though it's under one TCAD ownership. So it shows as a single lot on the
Mhm.
map you see here, but it's comprised of two legally platted lots. So I mean, technically it could be developed under SF3 to have like a house in an ADU configuration or two-family configuration on each lot. But I know the desire is to have the ability to do more units along this transit corridor, close to this, existing transit service. And so, I can't tell you, I don't know what this property owner's long-term plans are. Like if he plans to develop, he's not a developer himself, I will tell you that. So I don't know if he plans to partner with a developer, and that's usually what happens, right? Landowners, they purchase the properties and then they partner with someone who actually knows how to develop land. And then through that process, they work together. So I don't know if that is his long-term goal. My assumption is that that is the case, which is why he's here asking us to help him. But he's not necessarily talked about like, oh, I'm, just want to rezone it and flip it or anything like that. But he wants the ability to bring more units to the site. Now the market is kind of crazy right now. Like, I know you said like, I'm not really shocked to hear that you're not seeing a lot happening on the other Heflin case. Just because of the way the market has turned recently, with interest rates are a lot higher. There was a lot of issues with supply chain. Building materials were a lot more expensive. So I think it really kind of threw a wrench in some of these smaller developers' plans for projects. And
Well, and
I
house
know
values have gone down. Like, I feel like that's a main driver as well.
Right. All of those things, right? So it's like you pull one lever and it affects all these other things. And so I'm not on that side of land planning and development to know like how markets specifically affect developments, but I know I have seen that it has had an impact on especially some of our clients who are smaller scale developers. And so that's potentially probably why my assumption of why the other Heflin property is kind of put a pause. But I know there are landowners who are looking to at least do what they can right now while they're waiting for the market to kind of level out again. And so I believe this landowner is looking to, he knows he needs to do a zoning change to try to get more housing units here, missing middle housing units. And so his plan was, well, let's at least move forward, do the rezoning right now. And that way, hopefully when the market kind of levels out a little bit better, that it'll be set and ready to go. It's never a guarantee, admittedly, Adam, it's never a guarantee that what someone comes in wanting to do is actually what ends up happening, because there are things that happen in the market. But I know his desire is to bring missing middle development here. So yeah, kind of smaller scale, like more than single family, but not these huge, like 300 unit apartment buildings, right? So something
Well,
that's
I've seen this property going on and off the market the last 2 years or so many different times. It just doesn't seem like
really?
they actually are trying to build something here. It seems like they're trying to sell it, and that getting the zoning change is going to make the property more desirable, in the market.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, yeah, we can only ever tell as much as the information that we're given. But yeah,
I just think it's
ultimately,
going to be hard for
Mhm.
me to, sell the idea of the zoning change to my neighbors and stuff when there seems to be no advantage to it. It just seems like, oh, we're just going to approve this to make the property worth more money so that this company in Houston can get more money.
I can see and understand that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, not really a question. I'm just like that's going to be an uphill battle. So
No, I get it. It's not the first time we hear something like that for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So
I've seen you in enough meetings.
yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I don't really have any questions. It is just like sort of this like yeah, it just is coming off as sort of like a way to make the property worth more money. Like it's not really adding anything to the neighborhood. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of the neighbors don't necessarily want, like a building with a bunch of 1-bedroom houses, because you're not going to be able to have a family in that type of, uh, you know, condo or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Well, admittedly, and actually, I'm glad you said that, Adam, because I misspoke earlier. I said the most density you would ever see here is 11 units.
Hmm.
That 11 units is assuming that it's an averaging 1 and 2 bedroom units, right? If
Hmm.
you did have efficiency units, you could potentially see, let's see, MF3 allows 36 efficiency units per acre. And so if we're dealing with half an acre, divide 36 by 2, and that's what the
Hmm.
maximum of what you would see if you built
Right.
efficiency units only. The reality is that not a lot of people are building efficiency units.
Hmm.
They're building at least one, mostly 2 bedrooms, and then some are 2+ bedrooms. So
And that's actually what we see, on this map that we're looking at, that little orange square that says MF3. That is, I think it's called the Grove East, or the East Grove, and that is a
okay.
bunch of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So I just don't think that the neighborhood needs more of that. And I'm also kind of speaking for my constituency.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
it's going to be
So
hard, I think, to get us to want to do this, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
is there anything that I'm just curious, is there
Mhm.
anything that would have the neighborhood support this?
It's hard for
And if
me
you
to
can't answer that right now, that's
Mhm.
okay.
I can't, because I'm the only one, unfortunately, that was able
Mhm.
to make the meeting tonight. But I'm definitely going to share the presentation, and I can definitely get back to you to see just any other kind of concerns and stuff from the neighborhood.
Okay. Understood. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I've worked with you before, Adam, and you're great to work with. So, yeah.
I try.
You're very communicative. I like that. So,
okay. Well, Maureen, you want to take over and put the contact information up? I guess you said that's into your comments and questions, Adam.
Yeah, that does end my questions and comments.
Okay. Well, since you're the only one here, we can
Yeah, I
end the
feel I'm
movie
so
in the movie.
special.
Yeah, in the meeting,
Okay.
a little early, we can get back to our lives. But I'd like to extend thanks for coming out and taking time to find out about this
Of
project. I
course.
appreciate that.
Hold
So,
on. I'm
Maureen,
having, okay, I'm trying to stop pulling up. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so yeah, here's my contact information.
Mhm.
Here's Jonathan's information. Like I said, we haven't scheduled it for Planning Commission, City Council yet. The next steps will be I'll meet with my team. I will report back the conversation
Mhm.
tonight with my team. We'll make a recommendation on the change to the future land use map. I'll forward that recommendation to the zoning team, and Jonathan will present it to his zoning planners. They will make a recommendation on the zoning request. Once we finalize staff recommendation, we'll work with Victoria on scheduling the case for Planning Commission and City Council. So Adam, are you on the East MLK Neighborhood Plan contact team as well?
I am, yes.
Okay, good. So I will email the planning contact team members and let them know when the case is scheduled for Planning Commission,
Mhm.
and let y'all know when the deadline is to get a letter of recommendation. I encourage y'all to start working on that sooner rather than later, because there's usually a fairly short turnaround by the time I by the time we figure out a date, it's not a whole lot of time between when the notices go out and cases are heard. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of heads up on that, but we'll definitely keep you posted.
Yep. And then like this isn't my first rodeo, so I'm somewhat
Right.
familiar with the process.
Got it.
But it's always good to be reminded.
Okay, great.
So with that, we'll end the meeting and I'll stop the recording and wish everybody a good night.